Hello, ladies. Can you hear me
Good
properly?
morning.
Okay. All right. So good morning. Happy Saturday, gorgeous ladies of Why They Buy. Today we are going into reflectors and manifestors. So I'm going to give the floor to Amy for manifestors first. Amy, why do manifestors buy?
Good morning, babes. Okay,
Wait, I
so
can't hear you.
manifest. Oh, you can't hear me?
Is it just me?
Can you guys hear me?
Hang on. Do it again. We're
Hello,
good.
hello.
It was me. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I can hear you. What's happening? Yeah, okay. So manifestors, they buy because they want to have an impact. They feel like the container that you're going to provide with them is going to be something that is going to evolve and expand them. And they're like, if I can grow, I can do what I want to do in this world and I can help other people grow, you know? So they're buying off of the vision, off of the possibility of the vision for them. And what you're bringing out to the table might be very different than what their vision is, but they're going to be able to tap into the big picture and pick up what they want, grab it, and move with that. So it needs to be something that has no rules. It's very inspirational. So they need to be inspired by you. If you're, again, not evolving, if you're not changing, if you're not doing things in this world that are either impacting people's lives, you're really passionate about, right? They love somebody that has a passion, deep passion. So again, whether that is something that you're donating to, your own lifestyle or the freedom, the creativity, whatever it is, you need to be passionate and they are going to buy. They're going to buy off of the passion because they want this creative outlet. They want to tap into your energy. They have no sense of like, I want what you have. It's just like, I want to be expanded by you. I want to be in a container where I know that you are going to allow me to be myself, to be completely unique, and really hold space for me to do my thing. You know, so it needs to be somebody that is, you're going to be able to hold space for them to do what they want to do. They're very spiritual too. So they are actually a design that is deeply connected to source. They're very, that's why they move so fast with things. They just get these downloads. They're very spiritual, very connected. So a space that also feels very energetically sound, a space that feels very open, that feels like they're going to be able to tap it not only into you, but the energetics behind what you do and or the spirituality that you hold and have. They also want it to be about them. So if they feel like your container, your program, your space is going to be about them, that you are going to hear them, that you are going to see them, that you are going to do something for them, they're in. They are very me. I want to change. I want to do this. I want my business to go here. I want from a good space, and that's their aligned space. But it really is about them. So if they know that they're going to be supported and that they're going to be seen and heard and responded to, they are also going to want to buy. And the connection. So they have had a very difficult time throughout their lives because of their energy, holding friendships, holding connections with other people. So if they feel like they are going to be in a space that all of a sudden is going to provide that connection for them, like people in where they don't have to go find people, you know, it's just like a very natural space that is initiating friendship, is initiating sisterhood, is initiating connection, then they're going to be like, okay, yes, this is my chance where I can really, you know, understand other people and then people will be able to understand me. So those are going to be the biggest reasons.
So one thing that I found with manifestors is that, like Amy said, they're visionaries. So they are very drawn to the person who's able to do big things, the person who's able to have a big impact in whatever it is that they're interested in. So an impact in their own life, an impact on the world, depending on what they are drawn to. These are often the people I find that write the super polarizing stuff because they have a very strong opinion and they don't really have the thought, I wonder who's not going to like this. They have the thought, people need to know this because I think it's important. So they will sometimes resonate with that really straightforward content if it's the exact same opinion as them. And if it's the opposite, to them, they will be the ones that will be commenting on your feed and fighting with you about their principles and being like, I don't care that this is public. I don't care about anything. Like, I believe the opposite and I'm going to talk about it. I've found that a lot of my manifestor clients are the ones that end up having strong, you know, they're able to keep a vegan diet, or they're the ones that are like the ones that are going to go protest. They're the ones that really have a strong will to go do something. If they believe in it, they'll shout it from the rooftops. So they're less attracted to people that don't have a strong opinion. If you're very like, oh, I don't want to, the manifestor's drawn very much to the person who stands their own ground and has a strong voice, but that the voice says exactly what they want to hear. So again, it's so important, and we've talked about this in every call, but it doesn't mean anything when someone doesn't buy from you, because they could just be a manifestor with the absolute opposite opinion from you. And it would mean nothing right or wrong or good or bad about you. It wouldn't mean that your content isn't well written. It wouldn't mean that your sales page is wrong. It would mean that they don't agree with you. And that's okay. You don't actually want to have people in your world that are not believing or desiring the things you want anyway. So it's another reason to be super clear in your messaging and be really powerful and strong in it, because the manifestors that hear you and are like, that's my woman, that's the one, she's strong, she's willing to talk about what she wants to talk about, and I agree, they'll buy. But if you're trying to please everybody, they're like, nope, that's not my person. So the clarity, the focus, the knowing, the stepping into your power, the owning your identity, that's really what kind of draws them in. And what Amy said is so spot on. Like, it's all about me. What this really means is that they have an experience, in my opinion, like in the way that I've experienced this, what they have is, I'm the secondary character in their movie, and they're experiencing life like I'm the coach they've decided to choose, and I've got a certain set of expectations on what's good enough for them. So again, if I don't do it the way they want me to do it, that doesn't make me not a good coach. I have seen a lot of manifestors change coaches a lot. They're looking for something. If they see it's not there, they move. And sometimes it is there. I got everything I needed. I move. This doesn't mean anything about you, right, wrong, good, bad. It just means like, this is the way they do things. So instead of feeling, stressed when people are moving on, or they're not in agreement with you, or you're going to get someone that feels like a hater, but really they just don't agree with you on social media, there's this huge release of like, what if this is a manifestor with an opposite opinion? And you can just let it go. This has helped me so freaking much, because the fact is, these people have had a lot of trouble with the me thing growing up as kids, as teenagers. Like, that doesn't go down very well. Now, as grown women, we want to empower women to have what they want and to speak their truth and have an opinion. And, it's awesome now. They have a voice. They're really powerful coaches. They're able to make incredible shifts on the planet. They're brave. They're bold. They take a big stand. These will be very successful clients of yours when they tap into their power. But while they're trying to figure it out, sometimes it takes a minute, because they have like PTSD from being the one everybody doesn't like. They've had a hard time having friends. They've had a hard time. They feel like everybody always judges them for their opinion. So they're a bit wobbly in finding their identity. I've often found that they will try to copy a little bit, or look at what everybody else is doing and be like, I just want to make sure that nobody thinks that I'm doing it wrong, when inside they want to say something else and they get mad and angry and all the feelings. So really having space for yourself and your emotional intelligence to handle the manifesting generator that loves you, or the manifestor that loves you, and the manifestor that doesn't, and not making that mean anything, that will attract the manifestor. Alexander says, horrifying childhood. Oh, I have a private manifestor client. She's awesome. And this all applies. Horrifying childhood, needs to feel safe, super powerful. This is the thing. They're so powerful, but they will ignite that power in a space where they're allowed to be exactly who they are. So your emotional intelligence and you're putting your ego aside is going to create such an amazing space for them. Like, you believe in what you believe in, allow them to find you because of what you believe in, and put your ego aside for whatever response they have about whatever you're doing. And you will have a great relationship with your manifestor clients. So then why the heck do they not buy?
Oh, they don't buy because they feel boxed in. They feel like, I'm not going to really be able to be myself. She's not really going to be able to help me open up. So the thing about the manifestor, as you said, is that power and that, that strong sense of who they are when they tap into it. And you may find that with them in your space, but all of a sudden they get into the world or online and they're like, shrinking back down. So it's almost that like, okay, I'm not boxed in here, or I feel boxed in here. There's no way I'm going to bring it out there. And then when they feel like they're not boxed in, it just takes a little time to get that on the outside for them. Any rules, obviously, they do not like asking for permission. They do not like anybody else's set of rules. So if you have any rules around what you're doing, how you're doing it, how they're going to be working with you, they're not going to fly with that. They often will be the ones that will also be like, oh, so you have a 6-month coaching program, one-to-one, like that's your setup. Yeah, so do you think we could do like a 3.5-month one? You're like, no, it's 6 months. They're like, well, what if we do 3.5 and then this and then this and then this? They're trying to get their way. They're trying to get what they want because that's what they have inside. They want to make it happen their way. So you will notice that they're often trying to bend the rules and shift things in the way that you hold your boundaries and run your business. They also won't buy, obviously, if there's lack of inspiration or expansion. If they're just feeling like you're doing the same old thing, there's nothing activating, there's nothing thrilling about what you're doing in this world, they're not going to be tapped in. They're going to be like, oh, just another person, right? They're looking for that authentic, whoa, this person is having an impact. They're living a different lifestyle that most people don't. They're doing things in a way, they're showing up in a way that other people are afraid to do, right? They want to be the ones that are those trailblazers that are doing things entirely different. And if you have a piece of that, if you have a portion of that, if you are showing that truth out, they're going to be drawn in. But if not, they're not. Basically, if it's basic, right? If it's very basic, if they're like, I already know this, I know this, I know it, I've done it, learned it, blah, 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 I don't need to learn it again, they're not going to be drawn in. So again, things that are different. And then they are not going to buy if it's too much work. So they also have this energy that is very up and down, very sporadic. So they will get inspired, they'll be really energetic, and then they'll kind of lull out for a little bit because they're rebuilding their energy. But if it feels like it's going to be too much work, if it's going to be overwhelming, if it's like, I just don't want to, or if they're in that point in their energy where they have lower energy, they're not all of a sudden inspired and wanting to do something, they're also just not going to buy based on the timing.
So one thing that I've also found with manifestors that's super interesting is that they have a very internal process. So I have had manifestors show up out of nowhere, be like, okay, I'm ready to sign up for a 1-year container now. And I'm like, who are you? Like they don't, and they're like, oh, I've been following you for a year. And I just kind of decided now that I want to do it. So what I have found is that whenever I get in my head in my buying process that people are not responding, there's a few different designs that do this. They just watch before they buy. And I think that there's different kinds of manifestors that probably, and we'll go into the types in a minute and it'll make more sense. But there's some manifestors that will literally just appear like magic. And most of the things in their life, that's how they expect that it will happen. They don't like to work hard. They want it to feel easy. They will love to talk about manifestation. They want it to be like, how do I just make this happen though? Like, how do we just make this happen? So they may be less attracted to the programs where there's a lot to do for 2 reasons. Number 1 is they don't want to work hard. And number 2, because they profoundly believe that they should be able to manifest it, especially the ones that understand human design and that know that they're a manifester. I have found that the knowing that you're a manifester exponentially increases the feeling that you should be able to manifest everything without having to do anything for it. Like people are like, oh, I'm a manifester, so this should be really easy for me. So when you're talking about ease, when you're talking about flow and limitlessness, when you really believe in the freedom of how things happen in your world, this attracts the manifesting generator, or the manifestor. But as soon as you start saying the step by steps, if they don't resonate with one of the steps, they're not buying your thing. So this, to me, is when we were talking about manifesting generators yesterday, and we were saying the more information you give, that's not necessarily helpful. This also, I feel, applies to the manifestor, which is like, if you're telling me something that I'm going to have to do that I don't want to do inside of your process, you've just lost the entire sale. So sometimes it's better to say the result, because they're really driven by the result. They want it. You talk about the ease, the flow, the positive sides of it. And like Amy was talking about with the manifesting generators yesterday as well, then you show the unsexy work after, because if not, the minute they see, oh, this is going to be hard work, they don't want to do it. But then there's other designs like the generator where you tell them, we're going to go really deep. There's going to be some difficult things. We're going to go through some stuff. Some of them are like, oh, I love it. This is why I want to do it. It's more meaningful. It's more valuable. I want to do it. And the manifestor is like, So you've got different responses to what you're putting out there. So there's no right or wrong, but what kind of person do you want to pull in? If your program does have a lot of hard work and the people have to show up and do the work, probably not better to tell them there's a lot of work to do. So for example, Lynn's like, my little 5-year-old's a manifester. I believe every conversation in the world is a sales conversation. Someone's going to win. You're having a conversation with your 5-year-old about its bedtime. One of you is making a sale, right? So who is it? And if you've got rules, it's going to be so much harder to get her to bed. The more the rules, the more the fight with everything it is. Like, and if it's, you've got to brush your teeth, you got to do your home, you know, you got to do your this, you got to do this, and then you got to go to bed. It's like, I hate everything about your stupid plan. Like, why are you talking to me this way? So when it's just like, shall we read a story? And then it just happens that the story's in bed and it's like, oh my gosh, we're magically in bed. How amazing is this? And then it just happens. There's less of a fight. So it's like finding the energy of the ease, the path of least resistance for the manifestor is so powerful. And the more steps, the further away that you get from the heck yes emotion. So when we're looking at the different types, what do you feel is the biggest difference? How do they differentiate? If you're looking at like a splenic, more intuitive manifestor, and then you're looking at one that's more me, what's the biggest difference there?
Oh, okay. So we have emotional authorities that can be manifestors, and we're going to have really high emotions. And this is, again, something that like they don't know how to handle. It's almost like an outer body experience for the emotional manifestor, because they're not self-themed, which means when they're out of alignment and they don't get what they want is anger. So anger on top of the emotional waves that they're riding creates this like literally hurricane around them and around whoever they're around. So the emotions that it's compounding, right? We have emotional waves that are naturally happening inside of them, and then they don't get to do it the way that they want to do it. It's explosion, basically a volcano, not even a hurricane. It's a full volcano, and then everybody else is impacted from that. So when we look at how they buy, they again are not going to be buying if they're not enjoying the whole process of the buying experience, right? They're not enjoying how you're showing up. They're like, oh, she said something I don't like. It'll just be like this buildup of all of this anger, and they'll be like, no, I don't want this program, you know, or they've maybe inquired about it, and then they watch you continue to go on, and you just say something, one little thing that creates everything to just end that sale. And then their own misalignment in their anger, right? So their inability to realize that, oh, okay, so there's so much more to this. I don't just have to hear that one piece and not really be able to drop it. I can listen and still kind of tap into what I do like about her or the sale or the program or whatever it is. So they'll also feel even more exhausted. So their emotional waves plus their anger is going to create a really exhausted manifestor. So they might actually come to you and they're like looking for the thing, the change, right? Like, what do you have that is going to shift my entire life, my entire energy, my entire being? So they're the ones that are more looking for like, you have that one piece, you have the key, that is going to unlock everything that is not right with me. And then again, if you don't deliver in the way that they expect that, it's going to be like very upsetting to them.
I want to say one little thing about this. So notice how cool it is to be able to reverse engineer the human and say, okay, look, let's say I know people that are so in love with this kind of design that if this is what coaching really is like for them, they're like, this is the kind of person I want to work with. I love a challenge. I want these people to be happy. Like, this is the one that's the biggest before and after transformation. When they become aligned, it's like, oh, and they tell stories like, I used to be this, and now I'm this. The testimonials are next level when you help a person like this self-actualize. So I know a lot of coaches that love this kind of design. You're speaking to the design. You want to write your sales copy. You're saying, you get these bursts of anger. You don't even know why, but the situation of your life just makes you so angry. You know this isn't it. There's a piece missing. You feel it in your soul. And when you read my words, there's something that happens. You feel full for a moment. The anger subsides for a moment. And there's this quiet voice in your head that says, this woman has the key. One of the keys that you've been looking for. And I'm here to tell you that I'm so excited to help you navigate through this. And that if you want more information about how we can quiet the dragon, still the volcano that's erupting inside of you and find the peace and stillness that you're designed for, I'm offering consultations right now for one-on-one coaching. And this is what it is. And you're literally speaking to a person. And then that one person goes, oh my God, like you heard me and you got me. So you take the time and the care to say, I'm going to write this one post for an emotional manifester right now. And any emotional manifestors I have, if they're aligned with me, that'll be it. They'll come in. So you can really target your understanding of a human down to like their misunderstanding of themselves, like a mirror, like they've never been able to be seen before. So it's so cool to understand why they buy, but also how to hold them in their transformation. So I just wanted to like the little point about that. Please proceed.
Yeah. And, depending on the work that you do, right? The work that I do is the unsexy work with a client, and really diving into like those keys, those things that like each energy type is gonna like shift immediately. Some people do like really deep trauma, childhood, like inner child work. The manifestor inner child work is like, that is what's going to make the switch for them to be like misaligned to like, oh my gosh, because those emotions of anger are the most shamed, right? We have compassion for sadness, but anger, it's like, you can't be angry. What are you angry about? It creates more anger, and they literally do have this dragon inside of them. So really focusing and understanding what work you're bringing to the world is going to also help you understand the energy types that are going to benefit, and the authorities that will really benefit from your work.
That's so important. I just saw something. Alexandra says, I was thinking the other day that it'd be so good to do a homework to write a post for each type. I like that.
Yes.
We're going to make you do that now.
Idea. Yeah.
Okay. So I love this conversation. So that's the emotional authority. Then you said there's splenic.
Yep. So then we have splenic, and these are so as I said, that manifestors are deeply in tune with their energy, their spirituality, divine guidance. The splenics are going to be even more. They are like living life of intuition, right? And they've already felt this their entire life. So they may be like, I've had spiritual encounters, or I just know what is right and good for me, and I trust that, and I deeply connect with my intuition. Whether they trust it at this point or not is another story, but they know how to connect to it. They know what that is and what that feels like. So again, if you're talking about an intuitive person, a person that trusts their intuition, a person that feels their intuition, they're going to be like, I know I'm intuitive. What do we do? How do we tap into this? I want to work this more. So they're going to be very drawn to that, the awareness and the truth that you're speaking about intuition. They will just be drawn in.
And like,
these
let's
are
say
also
someone has a business like a yoga or holistic healing, or like, vegan cooking or whatever it is. Like, this design is such a cool design for that, because they're your ideal client in everything they are, and the way they walk, speak, eat, touch, move. Like, this is the person. So you can actually, like Amy's saying, like, you look at your profession and you're like, okay, who's my person? I'm wanting to have this like Zen course about, let's say, manifesting through food, holistic healing, cleansing. My key person may not be a sacral authority manifesting generator. My key person might be more like a splenic authority manifester. That energy and me is like, there's that feeling with it. So you kind of know then, okay, this is what I have. So then let me target my sales to this kind of design, because that works for them and for me.
Yeah. So like you said, they love different modalities that will, again, give them that big result, that big transformation. And they are willing to go through the stuff, right? Whereas you said manifesting generators with that are going to be like, oh, that's too much to like, if they see that big picture transformation vision at the end, they're like, yes. And I know all of these pieces are going to be the things that bring me there. So yeah, this is where it gets fun. And I think now that you guys are understanding all the energy types, you really can hone in on like, who is, when we talk about the ideal client and the work that you do for each program, who is my ideal client? And then you get to pull, it's sacral, it's sacral, but we're going to be working with generators. And then I'm also going to pull in the manifestors and the projectors in this area, right? So you get to really fine tune exactly who you want in that program. And you get to speak to each of them through their communication, through their language. So the splenic will also easily, they're going to be the ones that like Melanie said, come in and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to start like in an hour, like one-to-one coaching, signing up for a year. Can we start today? Right? That's the splenic. They're spontaneous. They love being in the moment. And when it hits them and they have to move on it. So they're going to be those people that just pop out of the blue. You know, they're also going to be the people that change their mind based on this doesn't feel good anymore. I have an intuitive nudge. I have a hit that like, this just isn't good for me anymore. And they might leave. They want out. They want, you know, they're not getting what they feel is nourishing for them. So they're just like tapped out and done. They also, even if they leave, are very loyal. They're very loyal. They will talk highly about you. Like if you didn't do anything wrong to them, they understand that. And they're just like, yeah, no, it's just an intuitive feeling. You know, I just know this isn't right for me. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with the program. I just don't feel good about it anymore. So they can be very loyal and really just speak highly of you, have really great referrals, even if it ends in a way that they didn't get the result they wanted. Yeah. So anything else you want to add on the splenic?
Nope, I'm good. And then the last one.
Okay. So then we have ego. So ego manifestors are going to be the ones that even more are me. This is all about the willpower. This is all about getting what they want. And again, they're designed that way, so it's good. So they are going to be the ones though that come in, they're like, well, I want this. You will hear them actually speak in the I wants, which is great and powerful if they're very clear about what they want and where they're at right now, right? Sometimes there's a big disconnect between where they are, what they want, and being able to move through it in alignment to get what they want. So they just maybe like, well, I want, you know, a 50K month, and they're at 5K, and they're like, can you do this for me? Right? Can you make this happen? Because that's what I want. So they have these really big expectations, bigger than the other two authorities, because it's good for them. They're like, I'm very clear about what I want, and let's do the thing to get that, right? Or I want to do the thing, and I want you to give me the thing to get me there. They also love the support, the encouragement. So again, they're going to go and they're going to have a little bit more of that willpower to experiment, to do the things, to stand out in a little bit more of a brave and courageous way. So having all eyes on them, support, feeling like they're in that one-to-one space with you, or small intimate group programs where they really get to shine, where people are like praising them for what they're doing. They love it. And then if they feel like it won't benefit them or they don't feel supported, they're definitely not going to buy. They're going to be like, it needs to feel like it is all about me. Like I am, and this is a result driven kind of container. And I want the results. So if you can't give me that, or this isn't going to get me there, then I don't want it.
So what I found with this design is they do really well in micro communities. So they're the ones that are also not necessarily drawn always to the big name coach. Mm-hmm. They don't need you to be super successful, super rich. They need you to be super caring about them, super on board to help them self-actualize. So how your community feels, how kind everyone is to each other, and also, do they feel like they could rise to the top? If it feels like they're the smallest fish in the pond, they're usually not really interested in being there. It doesn't feel good for them. So they really will want to be your best client. They're also the people who are going to say, I want to be your success story. I want to be the person that you shine all the light on. But they've got to be able to see it before they even go in that it's possible for them. So when you've got manifestors, what I find really helps is testimonials that are very varied. Like, you know, you've got the one who did the huge result, but you're also celebrating the one that did the smaller thing. Because if they're only seeing that you give love to the people that are so far above them in results and they're not there yet, they don't feel good about that. They want to be the shining star, and they want to feel like they can be the center of attention. And if you're the kind of person who can make people feel special wherever they're at on the spectrum, you really will attract these buyers into your world. They need your attention. So if you're going to be marketing to a manifestor, the powerful thing, and what I found is in early stages of coaching, when you've got a lot of energy and you want someone that's really going to challenge you, that can have amazing results, that's willing to do whatever it takes, the manifestor is an amazing client to have. They will do whatever it takes. And as I said, their transformation is pretty next level. So the testimonials are crazy. You've got to be there to give them a lot of you. If you're the kind of coach, it's like, you know, I just kind of want to do minimal work. I want someone that's very independent. Don't market to a manifestor. Manifestor wants you to do it together and really be there with them. And they want to be your best person. So a lot of support and a lot of love, but they don't need you to be super successful. So they're really great designs to have when your practice is beginning and you're looking for those perfectly aligned clients. They're like real good.
Yeah. And also too, when I describe manifestors and I talk about manifestors, they're like the right kind of weird. So they will have these quirks and these different, again, these very like new age kind of concepts or ideas or thoughts or lifestyles that are like, oh, that's different. So if you can hold the space and really be that person, especially, yeah, if you have a business where you're like, I want to give my all and I really want this to happen and you're in it together and you're able to pull out, ooh, that quirk is something that is interesting and different about you. This is an authentic piece that we need to tap into, and then do the work behind the scenes of like why they're not confident about that to be talking about it outwardly, or what is their polarity that they want to be talking about, right? So really learning how to tap into what makes them so unique. What are those little quirks about them? What makes them different? And then again, by you showing your authenticity and your beliefs, your opinions, that will draw them in, because they're like, ooh, there's something in me that feels different than everybody else. I want to be around somebody that's willing to work with people that have a different energy, that have different beliefs and thoughts, etc. And then it's just important to remember too that they are here to get people moving. So when you start to see or work with manifestors that like there's nothing going on in their world, there is some work to do, right? So it is the moment where you click as a coach, where you're like, okay, this person is definitely way out of alignment right now, and you're the one that is going to be holding that space. That's why it is so much energy to give. That helps them tap into that power, that gives them the space that are like, we are working on tapping into your power, because once you get there, it's the momentum and it flies and it goes really fast and massive things happen. But getting there is a little bit uphill. So if you are down, if you want that, if you are like, yes, I love helping people tap into their power, this is perfect for you. Manifestors are perfect.
I find so we have a question. Do they like a lot of copy?
Oh.
I feel the manifestors are the ones that like the most copy. They're the ones that will read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll read the whole thing, and then they'll comment. And if you've triggered them and they love it, they'll say something. If you've triggered them and they hate it, they'll say something. And if they're not sure about it, they'll just read everything you've got until they're ready to say something about it. And they'll be kind of secretive about it. But they are the ones that read everything. They want to know exactly who you are, what you believe in, what you think, what they want to know. They do a lot of research. The manifestors are often the ones that are like, oh, the reason I'm vegan is, the reason that I believe in this is, did you know the history behind let me tell you why you shouldn't do that. Let me tell you why you shouldn't eat that. Like that, they are aware, they're educated. When they fall into something that they love, they are all in. So they will be the ones where the long copy, they'll find it cool. Like they'll want to sit down and read the whole thing. They'll love to read blogs. They'll be like, Allison says this design sounds like my son. And they do get very angry. So Allison, this would make sense. Like they get very emotional, very strong outbursts. And if they're not the center of attention, it's very difficult for them. So this actually could make a lot of sense. I would look it up and see. Okay, so now we've got the reflector. Are you complete with manifestor? Do you feel
We're good. Yeah.
Okay, good. So now the reflector, and this is such a cool design. This is such a cool design because this is the most unique design in all of human design.
They're like 1% of the population.
That
so
blows
rare.
my mind. Yeah. So tell us like, why does a reflector buy?
Okay, so reflectors buy. So to understand, they are these mirrors. So they don't have anything that's really consistent in them. So when we look at the manifestor, it's like, well, I want to be a leader. I want to do this, right? That initiating force. When we look at reflectors, they're like, ooh, I need to feel everything. I need to tap into what's going on. They're very slow moving kind of creatures. So why they buy is because it feels really safe for them. It's a feeling that they really like. It feels good. So the way that you're showing up, the life that you're living, you don't need to say anything for them. They are all off of energy. So if they like what they see, they hear your voice and they like your voice, they see your stories and they're like, oh yes, I relate to that, or that feels good. They're looking for the feeling. And it's really one that they haven't felt before. So the thing about reflectors is that they're constantly going through these cycles, and they know what cycles feel good and what cycles don't feel good. And they aren't really here to like repeat cycles. So it has to be something that they're desiring that they haven't felt yet. So you are the one that they haven't felt yet. They haven't felt like this before. And they're like, ooh, I need to feel this now. I need to experience what this feels like. They also are the ones that like need that energy, obviously, to be very pure and clean. So anything that doesn't feel good, like if there's like a one day that they watch your live or they see a picture or that you say something and they're like, that does not feel good. So polarizing for them, nah. Like they are not going to be the ones that tap into that clean, desirable, free, pure kind of energy content posts they will buy off of. They also want to know some of the hows. So the interesting thing about them is that they're everyone and they're no one at the same time. So they're obviously themselves deep in their core, their soul, but they can tap into being anyone and also feel like they have no idea who they are. So if they want something about you, right? They love what you are, who you are, what you stand for. They're like, oh, I got to be in this and I got to pull from this and I got to take from this. And now I need to know, how do I create this in my life? So the knowing of the how is important for them, because otherwise it's just spacey. It's just spacey. Like, ooh, you're living this life. Okay, awesome. I want that. Nothing. They're
Yeah.
like, right? They're like, but how do I get that? How am I going to learn to embody this? And they will really dive into the work of figuring out how to do that. So they will be like those really great workers that you give them a task to do. They'll do the task, you give them homework. They're going to do the homework. They're going to dive in because they really want to learn how to carry that with you, with them. And then also from there, they're not going to be the ones that are necessarily lifers with you. They're going to be like, they're just these floaty creatures that are meant to take in a whole bunch of different people's energy and different pieces and different things from different people, experience it, play with it, and take that how they want to take it. And then they're off. They're just floating away onto somebody else or something else.
So something that I find very interesting with reflectors also is that they tend to have to need their wants. It's very difficult for them to just want a want and move for it. They're constantly looking for where in their body they can feel a need for it. And if they can't tap into that need, they'll tend to think about it until they can need it. The desire thing is something that's very difficult for them. I think what happens, there's so little reflectors that they have no experience of being around reflectors. So they're often brought up being other designs. So they're acting like a sacral authority when they're not. They're acting like an intuitive person based on the way their mother was. So when they're with different people, they act in different ways. When they're in different circles, they act in different ways. So maybe it's the kind of person who's been conservative their whole life. Now they've just found personal development. People are buying, they're getting excited in the comments. Now all of a sudden they're finding themselves wanting to buy fast when they've never done that. They're kind of afraid because they're like, wait, I've never felt this. How am I needing this right now? I'm needing a coaching program. How is this happening? So we're gonna talk to you a little bit about how they buy, because they've got a very unique buying system that no other design actually has. And there's two ways of looking at that in my experience. And I'll let Amy explain because it's really cool. But what happens is they have a very clear, like when they love something, they love it. Like you feel loved, so loved by reflectors, or they're gone. I've found that reflectors don't really stay around to not like you. They'll really just go away. So if you've got reflectors in your life, it's because they want to be there. They're happy to be there and they love you. They're the ones that will compliment you and tell you what they think is amazing about you. They'll take the time to say, this is what I admire about you. And this is what I think is so cool about you. And did you know that you have this effect and that you do that? Like they will give you a lot of love. And then when they're done, they will go. So if we say why they don't buy, why would they not buy?
That it doesn't feel good, that there's misalignment within you, or they just don't feel like that is something that they want to embody, right? So if it's a program that maybe is about copy, right? About writing, and they're like, I just don't want that. They will be clear about what they don't want and what doesn't feel good about them, but their desires, like you said, is kind of like, oh, is this really something I desire, right? So if it doesn't feel good to them and they're like not interested, don't want that, don't need that, they're not in. So they're very clear about what they don't want and how they don't want to feel. They will obviously, if there's any overwhelm, they're going to be like, oh, get me out of here. Overwhelm shuts them down because they don't have any of their own energy to tap into. Also, if they feels like they're giving more than they're getting in terms of support. So as Melanie said, they love to love on people, but they also need to feel that reciprocated. So if they're like, oh, nobody sees me, nobody's paying attention to me, she doesn't really know who I am, she's not really focusing on me or working with me. And it's not like the manifestor, like, I need the praise. It's more of that, like, compassion, that love, that embrace, kind of that warm hug to them. And again, not in a mothering way, because they aren't, if you mother them, they're going to be even more lost, but just in that compassionate way where, like, I see you, I love what you're doing, this is beautiful, those things.
Yeah.
And then, yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I have this other thing that just popped into my mind. So another thing that tends to happen is that the reflector wants to feel that like that relationship of reciprocation. So it's another design that does very well when you're not in the beginning, and I'll tell you why in a second, but in the beginning where you have space and real compassion and love and your heart is still open and you haven't gotten to a place in your business where you're like, I want to streamline everything. When you're really wanting to be connected with people, this is an amazing design for you. The thing is, though, with the reflector is that they're really not interested to learn from someone who just knows how in their head and hasn't embodied it. They're very like, I don't just want to know what you know. I want to know what you know once what you know has done something for you. I need to be able to see that you are this piece, because if I need to be sure that you can be the person that's going to show me how to do this. I need to know that you are it. It needs to be like that you are capable of it. I see it in you. I feel it in you. And they are able to tap into it that way. So the reflector is also the one that it's like, let's say you want to sell a money program because you kind of understand money and you've learned a lot, but you're not in a financial place where it makes sense yet. They're going to be like, no, it just won't happen. But they also, when they look at the program from, like, let's say me or Amanda Francis, and there's a million people in it, and they're like, they'll be like, no, that's not what I need either. I want someone that's just going to tell me. So they'll probably be in my inbox going, can I get your money program one-on-one? They'll want the one that knows with the support. So the more you're embodying your work, the more it's clear that you have the result, you're squeaky clean, the more you draw in the reflector, and the more you have an opportunity for a connected relationship, the more you draw in the reflector.
Yes. Yeah, that's so good. And then so part of how they buy their authority is this 28-day cycle, which is very long. But this is why they'll kind of just be floating around for a while, because they are meant to take approximately 28, 29 days to come to a decision. So when we look at the emotional authority who needs some time and space and comes back later, they come back way later. The thing about this, though, is that it's not set in stone. So it's not like day one of the moon and then, the end. It doesn't necessarily go in those cycles. It's also a theme in their life. So again, if all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I need to figure out my money situation. If that just suddenly pops into their world, or, oh my goodness, my relationship, right? If something is big and present during the time that you are launching something, they're in. They're like, this is something I'm working on right now. I need that relationship program, right? Because they're just wanting to take a piece of what you have to put it in their world and make it their own, but relate to exactly what's going on in that present time. So over these 28 days, they'll kind of be highs and lows. So they might be in your inbox being like, oh, so tell me more about this. Ooh, I need to know a little bit more. I have a question about this. So they might ask more questions, but take a really long time to actually come around. And it'll just be that moment when it clicks for them. That moment when all of a sudden it's like, yep, everything is right. And it's just there's nothing really that you can say or do, right? It's not really about you. It's just about where they're at in their spectrum of decision making, of clarity, of what they're moving through in their own world. And again, you feeling really good to them, it just pieces together, it's alignment, and they buy.
So another piece in this, and this is like, if you've got a reflector that's been around sacral authorities and fast action takers their whole life, they may not know that this is how they function. So what you may also find, and this is the flip side that I've encountered, is people who make decisions right away as reflectors, and within 28 days, they've changed their mind. Because they either take 28 days to sell themselves into it or 28 days to sell themselves out of it. So this is also when Amy says, like, they are not meant to stay for long periods of time. Whenever I have a reflector that's interested in something with me, I actually know in my head the contract is optional, because they are not, the odds that I'm going to keep a reflector for a full year focused are very low. So I make the decision whether that's okay with me or not. I was very frustrated by it in the beginning, and because the thing is, they go and they don't see anything wrong about it.
Mhm.
They're not like, oh, I'm breaking my agreement, there's a fight, there's a problem, you're not good enough. It's like, so how do I end my agreement? You know, like, well, you can't, you know, it's an agreement. Well, we have to, because I'm done. But then they want to send me screenshots of everything that we've done together, and they love me and they're thinking of me and they're still tagging me in their stories. Like, there's nothing wrong with it being over, but they'll break their word. So when you're working with a reflector, it's a different set of rules. There's so much energy coming at them all the time. They don't have their own, they're operating at a different pace, and they're misunderstood in the sense where there's no one they can really talk about it with. And a lot of people who do teach human design don't even talk about the reflector. They'll skip it because there's so little of them. So they have very little resources to even understand themselves. So instead of trying to understand, just keep the door open. Like, the way I feel is like, you keep the porch light open for the reflector. You know, you keep an eye out, you keep your heart open for them. You're willing to break the rules for them a little bit. Let them be the favorite grandchild. Let them have their own set of rules. They're so unique. Give them a break, keep the porch light on. That's my energy for them. And it tends to be a really great relationship, honestly.
Mhm. And same thing with the manifestors, of like them desiring and needing a lot of support, because they really truly have felt lost their entire lives. They're like, who am I? They have these identity crises quite often in their world. So especially when they come into an online space where there's 1,000,001 people doing what seems to be very different but very similar all at the same time, they're like, I want to be like this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But then they're like, I can't, I don't know, is this right? I don't know. They have no idea, and that sense of themselves. So learning, guiding and leading a reflector is a lot of leadership focused on who they are, and being able to pull out those things that are them, and noticing the things that are not them, that will not benefit them long term. So it takes a long time for them to feel really grounded and safe and powerful in who they are.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, if you can have an energy with them specifically, like Carrie says, she's got a reflector that's in her world constantly asking, but not really going into it, not jumping into the thing. One of the things that I find helps is just making it very clear, like, I will work with you, because I know that for you, commitment can be a little scary. You know, it's like, you want it today, but what if you don't want it tomorrow? And I hear you on that. And if this is something that you want to give it a shot, I'll work with you on a different set of rules as I work with other people, because I understand how unique your design is. You can say that if it feels aligned for you to do so. And that will be like, oh, well, wait a minute, this is a whole new game for them. Because what the biggest fear is, I don't fit in. And what if I break your rules? And what if I make you mad? And what if you make me stay? And what if I get stuck? And what if I can't? So they overthink so much out of fear of doing it wrong. But if you make them feel like you're going to make it work with them, for them, and their uniqueness, that's a really powerful thing. And Carol, let's see. Carolyn says, I have a reflector one-on-one client. She does feel lost. It's hard for her to make decisions. I recently started doing muscle testing with her to tap into her subconscious mind, and it's been helpful. That's amazing. Even just helping her feel understood. And yes, I do work with her in a different way than any other client. Yeah. And it's like, they're so unique. If you're going to take them on, then treat them as unique as they are, and it'll go a really long way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is there any authorities? How does that
That is
work?
the authority. So yeah, that's their authority. That's
There's
their
only one
strategy.
authority. It's the
That's it.
28-day.
That's it. Yeah.
It's the moon cycle authority.
Yeah. So also them talking it out, like, because they will start to, what I often recommend for reflectors is a lot of journaling, a lot of nighttime decompressing. So really taking that nighttime routine, boundaries, energetic space for themselves to really get clear on discharging everybody else's stuff, tapping into their own. So even thinking about the program, if you're like, if they're in your inbox a lot, you know, I would recommend being like, Listen, at nighttime, create a really clean space for yourself. Have a bath, light some candles, and then start journaling on the things that are coming out. Like, what do you want? What feels good for you? What feels right for you? And then kind of match, like, does this program fit that? Like, does my energy fit that? And really allowing them to start to tap into who they are and what they want based on who you are, because it's not like you're changing your energy in order to fit them, right? You're still going to be you. You're going to bend your rules, you're going to do different things, but you're still going to be you at the end of the day. Your alignment is your alignment. So does what I'm teaching fit you? Does that feel good? When you really let go of everything else that everybody else is doing, what you see, and tap into that. So that is one of the biggest things that starts to help them learn who they are, what they want, and if it does feel good or not for them.
I feel that's an amazing thing also with projectors. Projectors do so well with that. So if even at the end of your sales pitch, if you're like, for those of you who are on the fence about this, you feel a pull for it inside, but there's an equal pull of fear or of uncertainty. Here's the coursework, or here's the suggestion I'm going to give you tonight. Run a bath, light some candles, sit with yourself, and just let whatever's coming through for you come through, and write about it, and then read your own thoughts. It's going to give you a lot of insight. And the ones who do it will probably join your program, honestly, because they do want it. They just can't untangle their thoughts. But if they're able to follow your influence and do the work you ask them to, they'll see that they can be led by you. And most often that homework itself will have them buy. So this is a really great homework. It will pull in reflectors, but it will also pull in projectors, and projectors are thebomb.com.
And it's their own internal power, right? They've just made a decision based on their power. So it's that moment of internal power, internal alignment that feels good and that feels right.
Yes. And Carol says, this is what has been transformational for her, just journaling it out, having her speak it back to me. She comes to conclusions to what she wants and needs. So this is actually a really important piece of the puzzle. So a lot of times in the coaching world, when we're beginning, we think it's our job to tell people what to do. And we tell people, we try to, in the old masculine paradigm, sales rebuttals, it's like, okay, how do you have a rebuttal for pricing? How do you help a person walk through this fear and that fear? And in a lot of these designs, the minute you do that, you've lost the client. I have actually found in most cases, you lose the client as soon as you go with the rebuttals. The ones that can handle that are the most masculine energy, sacral, or really powerful, like ego-driven people who will like be willing to put up a fight with you. But all the other designs will feel completely swallowed, crushed, manipulated, bullied, cornered. They will hate the whole process. So my suggestion always is like, you have people who desire to buy from you, but they desire to buy from you on totally different timelines. You have the 28-day cycle for the reflector. You have the emotional authority that may want to think about it for a few weeks, and they will not be pushed. It just will not work. You've got the sacral authority buyer that's today and tomorrow and tomorrow, but next week. And there's not much you can do about that. They're going to buy the way they buy. So the more clear you are on your messaging, the more you understand people buy on their own timeline. It is not your job to push them. It is not your job to tell them, to give them the answers, to give them the key, to give them the solution. Like a lot of times you put out the flame when you do that. You want to fan the flame. The buyer experience is that they set themselves on fire to the point of combustion where they cannot not buy. So our job is to fan the flame. We don't want to put out the fire. We don't want to make it easy for them. We don't want to take all their pressures, all their fears off for it to be a yes and push them. And we really actually want to gently blow on the flame to make it increase and grow. And different designs have different ways that we do that. They all have a different spice that lights up that flame. So it's just knowing what designs you like to work with. When someone shows up in a certain way in your inbox, you kind of navigate it based on what your intuition is, based on the designs we're talking about right now. Give people a lot of space and trust. People come back. How many times have you been like, I remember when I first wanted to buy this Louis Vuitton purse, I went and I was like, gosh, can I really spend this much money on a purse? This is so stupid. I can't. Right? But then I couldn't stop thinking about the purse. Was there something wrong about the purse? No. Was there something wrong about the seller? No. Was there something wrong about the store? No. Was there something wrong with my financial situation? No. I just didn't buy the purse because it was, that's it. It's the only reason I didn't buy the purse. Then I decided that I wanted to go see it again because it kept pulling me. So then I went back And then the girl's like, oh, you're back. It's calling you, isn't it? You really want to see it. And her energy made me so that I left before she could even show me the purse again. So then she sold me out of the purse that I couldn't stop thinking about. So I went to another Louis Vuitton and a couple of weeks later because I was walking past. I went through. Nobody served me. There was nobody there. And I just put the purse on the counter. And then someone was like, can we help you? And I was like, I want this purse. And then I bought it. So what almost didn't make me buy was someone helping me. People buy in different ways for different reasons, and they don't buy in different ways for different reasons. We have our aligned buying time. So trust yourself. And the more you're able to hone in into your own power and not wobble because someone thought about it, they circled back, they said they would and they didn't, they changed their mind. If you don't make that mean anything about you, you will stay in your authentic sales power. When it's time to speak, you will stay in your power when you're speaking. And then you'll attract authentically all the designs that are ready for you now. And also keep a good feeling for those who are going to be good to buy from you later or next week or next month or in 28 days or whatever the cycle is. So do you have anything else that you want to add to the reflector in any way?
No, I think that's all. But yeah, just on that, and it's when we start to like, I feel like that was the old method of selling, right? Like, okay, be ready for rebuttals. When we start to notice that our alignment attracts in the aligned people for us, there is a power that is just felt. So that's why we talk about so much, like, what is your internal power? You got to work on you. We got to get you in alignment, because then all of a sudden, the moment that somebody's like, I'll be back, or I'm going to think about it, or this isn't right now, you still hold that power. And then that's attracting so many people in the moment and over time. So really, there is no need to worry. Like Melanie said, there's no need to worry. There's no need to drop your energetic alignment for somebody else that isn't ready. It's like, okay, cool. Here's what I do. Here's my thing. Here's the da, 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 da. See ya when I see ya.
Yes. And there's a really important question here. So Allison's like, I don't know my design. What do you think my design is? So there's no point guessing a design, to be really honest. It would be more detrimental than anything else to try to profile yourself and be wrong about it than to not know what it is and kind of look at what you get about yourself and say, this could be true. Let me see about that. Like, it's actually better to be curious than to be misdiagnosed. Let's put it that way. You're going to have clients that are going to come into your world that don't know their design, and you're not going to know their design. You're going to get intuitions based on who they're being and how they're showing up and how they're acting. This is a profiling system that's important to take importantly, but lightly. And what this means is, like, human design is a tool. It does not define you. It does not mean you cannot make a decision as a reflector today because you have to take 28 days because or else you're wrong with your design. It's not like that. It's not, oh, you're a sacral authority, so you're not allowed to tap into your intuition. It's not like that. It explains a lot of your behavior. So what we're often looking at is, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And what I found in my journey of becoming very powerful when I wasn't, very wealthy when I wasn't, very happy when I wasn't, what I found is that the question that's far more important than why is, or that far more important than how is why. Why? So when I'm feeling overwhelmed and it's like, okay, how do I stop being overwhelmed? I don't know the answer to that question. But if I'm like, why am I overwhelmed? Then I can kind of move myself through it a little faster. Like, why am I overwhelmed? What is this? So if it's like, well, I'm overwhelmed because I'm a sacral authority and I'm now completely stuck in a bunch of rules that I don't want to have with people that don't like me up. And I've got a million things to do by certain deadlines. I'm I'm in overwhelm. Of course I don't feel good. This is why. Okay. It gives me a tool to help me navigate the why. However, if I don't know that I'm a sacral authority and I don't understand that, but I understand everything about human design, it still gives me a bunch of things I can tap into. I can say, okay, I'm feeling super overwhelmed. Is it possible that I've got some emotions that need to be processed? And it's like, no, I don't feel sad. I don't feel any of the emotions. Okay. So let me give myself a few options. Do I want a nap? Do I want this? Do I want that? Oh, something just clicked, like I desire that. I can take myself through some of the tools if I'm not aware. I can play with what's available for me. I can notice my behavior. So what I would suggest that you do is just go through how the designs buy and go, this resembles me. This is how I buy. This is how I buy. This is how I buy. My favorite way of selling is to go through this program and listen to all the ways people buy and see which ones light you up the most. I buy like this. I love to buy like this. This is fun. I like this. This is fun. I like to be around this. This feels good to me. And then you're going to get an idea either of what profile you have or at least what you enjoy to do so you can attract people who are very similar to your vibe or a good complement to your vibe. So you reverse engineer it. Now you know how it goes. You look at the pieces you really like and you create your sales based on that. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that helps. Okay.
And Alexandra asked, is it helpful to market to different types and different posts for the same program? Or do I now have to consider that my program might not hold them all? I do this working backwards, same thing. So I will launch a program, I will launch whatever it is, and I will speak to the energy types I want in that container. Will I pull in other energy types? Of course, because they're tapping into something else, right? Because it's not, again, it's not, ooh, you only market to projectors, you're only going to have projectors. Other people resonate with different things. So I do post towards the energy types that I want in that group, the majority of them, for the same program. So I get really clear on that, or the authorities. So some programs, I don't want emotional authorities in there. And I just want to focus on, you know, like moving through things really, really quickly and getting to that. And with an emotional authority, it's more time to be working through things. So I'm very aware of what I'm holding. And myself, I don't always like to have the heavy emotions and things, and not that other energy types or authorities can't or won't, but an emotional authority has more of that just naturally. So yes, I do different posts for the same program towards the different energy types and authorities based on what I want in my program. Other ones come in, absolutely. And then also to go off of that, when we are designing who we want in, or the way that somebody is going to buy based on their authority, not every energy type, actually most of them and authorities are not in alignment. So we could have a sacral and all of a sudden it's like, you know, that sacral is supposed to buy in the moment, supposed to, if they're in alignment, if they trust themselves. I have so many that are like, yeah, but this, yeah, but this, yeah, but like that one time that I bought that program and then this happened. They're living in the fear of their past experiences that are preventing them from actually working in alignment with how they're meant to buy, how they're meant to live, how they're meant to make all their decisions. So just because you're doing everything right still, right, doesn't mean that your audience is perfectly aligned in that moment to buy the way that you're selling to them.
So I'm so in love with this question because it also made me realize something. Why I love doing one-on-one coaching is because it gives me a very clear insight into a human type. So for example, if I'm Amy's coach and she's a projector with 5-1 and she's a splenic authority, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I understand splenic when I know Amy. I understand projector when I speak Amy. I understand 1-5-5-1 when I'm with Amy. I understand this energy. So when I ever meet up another person that's got a certain piece of that, I'm like, I think I could maybe understand a little bit. They remind me energetically of this person. So it connects me to more people to understand what they're going through. And I have different clients that feel like, oh my gosh, I love working with this person. So I want to speak to the person that reminds me of this person. So if Amy's my ideal client and I love her and I'm like, I wish I had all Amy's as clients. Well, what design is Amy and what would maybe make her feel like, oh, I want to do this, right? If I love my design, I'm like, I just wish all my friends were like me. My ideal client is me. I want people that are like this. Well, then let me write a post that I would respond to. So I wrote 2 very different posts because I actually wanted to talk about it in the program. I took 2 completely different identities in my mind as I wrote these 2 posts. So one says this: it may feel stressful to see offers like this. Maybe you're feeling like you really shouldn't need a sales course. Maybe you even teach sales. Maybe people look up to you as a successful entrepreneur and you don't want to look like you need help. Yet something inside you is so pulled to this program. You've read every post. This isn't a program you take because you don't know what you're doing. These tools scaled my business to a 7-figure month and Amy's to 6-figure months. And this isn't a first level sales course on how to sell. It's way beyond that. This program will help you understand what designs you align with effortlessly to serve. It will empower you to communicate clearly with your best clients. It will create an extraordinary buying experience for your clients and solidify strong bonds and networks within your community. It'll expand your reach with your most aligned audience. It will give you the confidence to sell from a solid place that allows your creativity and flow to kick in the way it does when you're helping others. It will help you zoom out and take yourself out of the equation so you can better address your buyers without getting in your head. It'll give you the clarity so that you can speak your words with conviction. It'll fuel your self-esteem, boost your excitement. It will feel like your toolbox just got a major upgrade, and there isn't even one project you can't take on. It gets to be the program you buy because you desire it, not because something is wrong. So this, I had a certain vibe of person in mind. And then I wrote another post, and this one would be more for like, I would buy when I didn't know if it was going to work, when I was in my head about how to do it, when I questioned everything I posted. Selling was one of my least favorite things in the world. It made me question my abilities as a coach. It made me fear what people would think. It was a constant head game. When I learned how to sell based on how my ideal buyer loves to buy, it changed the energy of sales completely. Now sales feels like writing love letters. It feels like fireworks in my heart. It feels like nonstop energy. It feels like fun. It feels like effortlessness. I'm so excited to give you these tools that will change the way you treat your buyers forever. They'll give you a better understanding of who you are as a buyer and utilize your own unique magnetism to connect with the best clients you've ever had. It'll reshape the mistakes you've made and make you feel like you can flip them into power and fuel. It'll help you achieve the level of confidence you've been waiting for in your angle and direction in sales, change your stance in conversation, make you a better communicator, attract the perfect aligned buyers. I've never offered anything close to this, and now I'm partnering with one of the most incredible human design experts out there, my past client, Amy Elizabeth. If you've wondered how myself and my clients have such incredible connected communities, you're about to find out. Come play at a whole new level. This investment will pay off over and over again. We begin on October 14th. This is a totally different energy. So one is like, let me explain to you what it's going to be. This is logical. This is amazing. This is important. This is good. And the other one's like, fireworks, love letters. So two different buyers will read that and get what they need. So it's fun to have different perspectives, because what tends to happen with sales copy is you just say the same thing over and over again. And you're like, gosh, I don't know what else to write. Well, it's because if you're writing to a different person, it'll change the way you write. It'll change why you write. So it's not how do I post, but why am I posting, and who is this for? Who is the reader? So for me, it makes it much more possible for me to keep posting and keep writing when I have different readers in mind. It's a lot easier to do it that way.
And it gets even more exciting as we go through tomorrow, the profile lines, because the first one that Melanie read, I don't think, explain if it was an energy type, but I feel like those were more profile numbers that were coming in, because there's ones there, there's fives there, there's
I wrote the first
there.
one for you, and I wrote the second one for me in the profile.
Yeah, so it gets, and that's how I love to do it too. It's like, okay, so all of these energy types, but if I really focus on the profile numbers, all of a sudden I'm bringing in, generators, manifesting generators, and projectors, all that have a 1 in their profile, right? They want the information, they want the facts. So it gets really cool tomorrow as we bring the final piece all together to you guys of how you get to play with this, and how all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I do have a lot of generators and many gens and projectors in my world. Why? Well, what do they have in common? Maybe a 1 line.
Yeah. So for me, when I'm writing content, like I actually care more about the profile, about the numbers that make up the profile, than I do about everything else. Like it makes sense. It helps me understand why they buy. But what really sharpens the copy, and what really makes me be like, I'm going to go and tickle your fancy. Like I'm going to go say the thing that makes you go, that's the numbers. So tomorrow we're doing 1 through 3, and then the next day 4 through 6. And this is fun. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
And I love to play in my launches. I love to go through all of it. So I love to like just hit on the authority. I love to just hit the authority or energy type. And then I go in and play with the numbers, profiles. And then I go back and like hit that gut again, hit that sacral again. What am I hitting again? And it's just a fun game, and marketing all of a sudden becomes pleasurable. And you do get to take on these identities and be like very clear. You're not just speaking to the masses and hope somebody buys. You're like, oh no, I know who I'm talking to. And then you watch them come in and you're like, yeah.
But you're also not playing, like gambling an identity. Like I'll never forget one of the first coaches I hired that made me do an ideal client avatar. And this coach asked me like, what's her name? And I was like, are they all going to have the same name, these clients? And they're like, no, but what's the vibe? Like, what's her name? Where does she live? Does she have kids? How many kids? What's her style? I was like, this is not how I don't care about that. Like, that's not it at all. But when we go into the profiles and the lines make up the profiles tomorrow, and you see what that means, you're gonna be like, oh, I know who I like to work with. Oh my gosh, I love that about this. Oh, I love this about that. And it also means that a certain person has different things within a line of a profile that's like super awesome and magnetizing that you love, and other things that you want to shy away from and not market to, because that's not the part of them you want to pull forward. You know, so it's going to be so much fun. I don't want to say too much because this is for tomorrow, but like, this is even more exciting. I'm so happy we did it in this order.
I know. So good.
Okay. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
That's it. Anybody else? I think we covered, I think everything's been very clear. Unless you guys have questions, pop them in, but
We're good. Okay. So the workbooks will be dropping for today's as well with the 2 profiles. I am so happy. Thank you for being here. You're awesome. And tomorrow we do the numbers and make up the profiles. And I'm so excited.
bye guys.